Bible truth, line by line, in context, 5-minute lessons. Let's go. Welcome to Bible Bites. All right, guys, the 5-minute lesson starts now. All right, guys. Last time we left off with Romans 1:22, and we learned that men were creating, shaping reality, shaping their imaginations, and they were doing it without God. All right, so we're going to move into Romans 1:23. All right, so these vain imaginations, these empty thoughts that were just plaguing our brains, we made God in these vain imaginations more like us, his creations, all right? Look, Romans 1:21, we glorified him not as God, right? Isn't that what the text is telling us? Again, it's just confirming that, right? But it gets deeper maybe. I'm going to step out of Romans. I know I said we don't want to do that, but there's some context and there's some general ideas that will really just give us some greater clarity into what we're reading here. Okay, so in Genesis 1:28 through 30, God gave man dominion, rulership over the fowl of the air, the fish, the living things on the earth, the creeping things. And then in Romans 1:23, we see that man has lowered God down to the level of these things, this fowl of the air, these four-footed beasts, these creeping things. Mankind, in their vain imaginations, gave themselves dominion over God. That's what pissed him off. Pardon my language. All right. We made ourselves most high. We put ourselves above God as creator. How? Stick with me. Listen to this, right? Romans 1:18. We hold the truth in unrighteousness. All right. And then again, I'm going to step out of Romans. Just bear with me, guys. I don't do this often, but I want you to see this. Exodus 20, verse 3, okay? You shall have no other gods before me. All right, now look, this is crazy, okay? Because if you remove the creator from the equation, everything becomes a god over him. Let me say it again. If you remove the creator from the equation, everything becomes a god over him. We become a god over him because all these things had to be created by something. So we as man then create our own deities to explain how they were created. We create God. We place ourselves as the creator of the creator. That's what makes God angry. Golly, dude. Okay, stick with me, all right? Romans 1:24. Now, because of this disrespect, this disregard, ungodliness for God and his laws, his natural order, it says God gave mankind up to our vain imaginations. He gave us up. Now remember, Romans 1:21, vain imaginations darken the hearts of man. So when God gave us up, our darkened hearts, it says, made us unclean. And uncleanness comes from our heart's lust. Look at the text. And this lust brought dishonorable actions through our bodies. Isn't that unrighteousness? Isn't God angry with ungodliness and unrighteousness? Come on, let's go. And the dishonorable actions were performed between themselves. Okay? Now, we see that when our minds are fixed on vain things, not godly truths, our hearts grow dark, which leads to performing actions, unrighteousness, that dishonor and dirty us. But we also see that God decided to give us over to those unclean acts and lustful imaginations, meaning God was originally trying to keep us away from dark hearts and uncleanness. Remember, he had to give us over to it. So what was the actions prior to that? He was trying to keep us away from it. Think about it. Come on. Remember, Romans 1:16. If God gave us up after trying to save us, then the power of God unto salvation is just him returning to his original plan in the first place. God, let's go. Romans 1:25. All right, so men now changed the truth of God into a lie, and we worship the creature over the creator. Now, remember, Romans 1:23 and Genesis 1:28 through 30, right? It showed exactly this truth, that men changed the truth of God into a lie and worship the creature over the creator. All right? Romans 1:26, we worship and serve the creature, changing the truth of God into a lie. And we tried making God a creation which man has dominion over. We broke the natural order of things with our vain imaginations, our vain beliefs. So God gave us over to that. He stopped intervening and he left us to those vain imaginations and vile affections, it says, right? So now women lay with women, which is a progression of our disregard for the natural order. And then Romans 1:27, even men become lustful for other men. Again, this happens apparently with greater frequency because it is stated after God gave men over to their foolish black hearts and lies from vain imaginations. After he gave us over, that lust for the same sex, it increased. That's what we're seeing, right? It indicates that God's very intervention, his very presence, maybe, was the restrainer for these evil actions. And the restraint was over men's minds. Actions followed their imaginations. And now because we pursued ungodliness and unrighteousness, these men have received some reward, some recompense, right? Look at the text, aligned to ungodliness and unrighteousness. The fact that their actions of lust are classified as an error indicates that the reward for that error is negative, okay? This negative reward for error was received in themselves and was meat. Meat is, by definition, is fit or proper. So either the recompense was physically internal or internal in a different spiritual way. Either way, it's negative, all right? But then we're going to stop there. I'm a little over time, guys, but this was fun. Let's do another one. I'm going to see you next time, guys. We're rolling into knowledge and understanding of God so we can make it to obedience because, man, I need some obedience in my life. So I'll talk to you next time. Later.